Hey, Juanita. Okay, so hopefully this shows up. I'm having problems getting the camera to actually focus on the screen and me, so I might be blurry, but this might be okay. So we'll see how this goes. But um, one of the things I wanted to talk about as far as training going forward, I talked about how I don't necessarily prescribe training protocols unless I can physically work with somebody hands-on because there's so many variables as far as biomechanics are concerned. It's hard to dictate what works best for somebody just through viewing through pictures. I need something a lot more comprehensive, videos and all that other stuff, but it just works best if I'm face to face. But that being said, knowing that you do have quite a bit of years of trainability under you, we can go over these principles and then together we can go ahead and work on it and see where we can try and transgress our training moving forward. Now, knowing that you're very in tune with endurance training, I sent you that YouTube earlier talking about fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fiber types. So we're going to continue on that conversation as far as what we're doing in conjunction with our diet in hopes of the ultimate goal. And I also want to throw in something else as far as abs training that I want you to go ahead and go over today. So in the video, we talked about the difference between fiber types consisting of a 50-50 ratio in just your untrained normal person. And through trainability, we can switch that to an 80-20 ratio or a 20-20 ratio depending on the trainability of the client. So muscle, your bodybuilders, your sprinters carry a fast twitch fiber type. That's why they look so physically different compared to like your endurance athlete that carries a much slower fiber type. And in the video, how I talked about you can train these things. Fiber type is something that you definitely can train. We start now. It's not something that's going to happen overnight because we're actually trying to change the physiological effects of muscle mass and muscle within the body. But be that as may, what we want to do is we want to attain this physique with this type of food programming. So we want our body to process food like we're a marathon runner, but we want our body to build muscle like a bodybuilder, okay? So we're going to keep our diet the same. I'm going to show you how it relates to one or the other. But as far as training goes, how do we go ahead and try to increase our fiber type? Well, the one things that we can do is specifically how we train. In grad school, I did a lot on peak power performance training. So peak power or power is a product of force times velocity divided by time. So if we're trying to increase peak power, you don't have to go extremely heavy weight. And don't think for any instance that going extremely heavy weight will also dictate you into a much hypertrophic mass type sense. We're just trying to work on fiber type. So I don't want you to really work and get too concerned with weight here. I want you to get more concerned with power. So when we look at what the video showed us as far as sprinters, they're dealing primarily with power. So they're producing a lot of force in a very short amount of time. Okay, the energy substrates for that is going to be mostly creatine, phosphates, and carbohydrates, glycogen. Whereas the primary fuel source for your person that has a slow twitch fiber type body type is mostly fats, meaning their body is used to eating fats. Now, when we look at here, 80-20 prefers carbs, 20-80 prefers fats. I put prefers in an asterisk there because what I mean by prefers is the body's more prominent to utilizing those two types of substrates for that given body type, okay? So, continuing on from there, okay, we want to achieve this while still eating like this, all right? So I want to go over a couple things. First thing first is, how do we go ahead and train like this? Well, we need to look at power. So when you look at a sprinter type athlete's training regimen, it's very explosive, very powerful. A lot of intensity in a short amount of time. Now you can do the same thing with your lifting protocol where you're doing ballistic type powerful movements, okay, or a type of movement that requires an excessive more weight that you're used to help increase this fiber type. Now, we don't want to change our eating program because here's what's going to happen. Now, your body's going to go ahead and slowly change fiber type just through the training protocols in which we're doing. In our load day emphasis, you're still getting enough carbohydrates to be able to handle that load, okay? So don't worry about your eating in relation to your training. Train more like this. We're still going to keep our diet like this. Now, one of the things I wanted to go over today with you was ab training, because I know this is a hard thing to try and cut some people off. And usually when I work with athletes or anybody in general, I'll tell them just don't ab train whatsoever until we get you to that stage. And then we can go ahead and do some small ab movements, go ahead and define and pop and all of that stuff. I will definitely get you back into ab training, but we're going to limit it. All right. At first, I just said no ab training, and then I kind of thought about it. I was like, well, you know, you do have some years of trainability, so you'd understand the difference of what we're looking at here. So I want to go over what we're looking at. So this is a muscle fiber. You know, it's nothing peanut about it. We have the belly head, we have the tendons, the point of origin and insertion where they're avascular areas. But what I want to do is we're going to take a section out of this muscle fiber and expand it out and see what we have here. So within a muscle fiber, you have individual sarcomeres, okay? And these are individual block units within this long strand. Now, each unit works individually of each other. So what you have is a unit of actin, myosin filament heads that come in like this when, you know, contracted with an electrical stimuli, bind to each other, and then walk across each other to shorten the length. So you see we have unbinding, binded, and then a shortened, contracted muscle fiber. Now, what does this mean? Well, what I hope to show you here is, if you look at it, I only have one fiber contracted here versus a whole group of muscle fibers. Okay, this is what we call angle pennation. Okay, angle pennation is a very big aspect of what bodybuilders do because they're trying to specifically create a hypertrophic event in a certain joint angle. All right. So that being said, we're going to use this same type of training for your ab training. Okay, and here's what I mean. So you have two different types of abs, and I'm going to send you some pictures here in a second. But like you have a bodybuilder that's doing an ab crunch. You see how they can be very blocky in the midsection, right? Versus some bodybuilders that have a very streamlined midsection with very key point decisive abs that don't look too blocky, but they're very, very defined. Well, what's the difference in them? Okay. Well, when we're looking at a six-pack, and this is the worst six-pack I've probably ever drawn, but you get the point. Now, utilizing this idea here within our six-pack, if we can go ahead and hypertrophy these areas of origin and insertion right where those abdominal heads are without actually putting any stress on the middle aspect of the abdominal cavity, then what do we get? We get clearly defined abs without an over-hypertrophic ab complex, meaning the whole ab complex doesn't have to grow in order for us to get a more defined abs. Well, how do we do this? Okay, how do we go ahead and define just the areas around the point of origin and insertion without actually contracting all the muscle fibers with the belly head of the abdominal cavity? Okay, answer is isometric ab training. A buddy of mine, Eric Salazar, actually just did a video on this, and it's very cool that he did it because it reminded me of some of the things we talked about. But isometric ab training, so things like planks, holding your body within one position while your core has to contract to hold that body tight. Well, that's what we do. So when we do like a plank versus a crunch, we have a full contraction of the entire abdominal midplex versus a plank where your body's erect supine and holding that position while we apply force. Well, where's it applying force at? It's applying it at the points of origin and insertion while you try to maintain that body position. All right. So I hope this clears up. I want you to go ahead and start adding in this type of ab training. Let's start talking more aggressively about how we're doing our weight training protocols and make sure that we are still implementing our interval training, because interval training not only does it increase respiratory quotient, but it also helps increase and elicit fiber type training as well. So I hope this clears it up. Just to go ahead and provide more fuel for you, I went ahead and added in some studies for you that showed how the increase in performance is increased with trainability and dietary intake in a ketogenic diet as well. So that way you have some more reading material for you, all right? Hope this clears everything up. Talk to you later.